don't need a machine to tell you today whether you feel good or bad. And similarly, we have direct ways of modifying how our organism works. These are very simple. How we breathe, the food that we eat, the beverages that we drink, the sensory impressions we take in. Our whole lives are a movement in nature, consciousness, life, transformation. And if we can learn these tools, then we can have the ability to become masters of our own destiny and also learn to access higher awareness beyond our ordinary time, space, name, form, and number-based realms, which is what these great teachings like the Upanishads teach us. So the Ayurveda shows us how to work with these Agni, Vayu, Soma forces at a physiological level for health, longevity, and even for Rasayana. Rasayana is based upon the Soma or the Rasa or the Ananda principle, which is connected to the Tarpa, Kapha, and the brain, and controlling brain chemistry through learning how to modulate Tarpa, Kapha through yogic practices, particularly pranayama, mantra, and meditation. A lot of the physical health is based upon balancing of the Jatar Agni and its different states. So we have this wonderful science of Ayurveda. Now, what the yoga is the yoga is first of all the psychological aspect of the Ayurveda, the Sattva Vijaya treatment. Chitta Vritti Nirodha, calming the disturbances of the chitta. Chitta, mind in the broadest sense of the term. And chitta then is not only what we in the West call mind, it includes instinct, subconscious, emotion, sensory impressions, logic, memory, intuition, sleep. These are all activities of the chitta. Calming the doshas, particularly the Vata dosha, because what we say, the chitta spanda, the vibration of the chitta, and the prana spanda, and the vibration of prana go together. You can control one through the other. In Hatha Yoga, they control the prana to control the mind. In Raj Yoga, you use the mind to control the prana. So, through this harmonization of the chitta, then one can also deal with all the psychological issues and psychological therapies. And this brings me to the important topic I wanted to address specifically today, and which has been touched upon a little bit already, and which is an integral part of the Ayurveda, which is what we call now behavioral medicine. That what you do is the main medicine that you have. What your lifestyle is, what your daily activity is, not only the food you take in, your exercise, how you think, how you breathe, all of that. The Western medicine is finally coming to the point of recognizing that we must address behavioral medicine. We cannot just simply treat people at a chemical level, and we cannot just simply treat people through surgery. We have to recognize that there is a real person there who has their own temperament, tendencies, needs, and desires. And we must know how to address that and examine it. Now, one of the most important breakthroughs in modern medicine is the genome, examining the gene and how it functions. And in the beginning, there was the idea that once we have broken the DNA code, that we could then be in a position to treat all diseases, to bring in genetic modification into the person, or to change the chemistry of the brain appropriately, and then everything would be cured. But now it is discovered that the genes are not so fixed after all. That genes are only predispositions, and they will only be triggered if there are certain behavioral or environmental factors. Say someone has a genetic predisposition towards diabetes. That predisposition is not going to be 100%. It's only going to be slightly more than the average person. So too with most diseases. There are some diseases where the genetic tendency may be 80%. That's very rare. So what it means is through modulating our lifestyle and behavior, we can decide which genes that we trigger and which genes that go dormant. Now, this is a very interesting point, because you know, modern medicine has basically evolved from what we call the medicine of the battlefield. It was invented during warfare, and it was mainly done to treat injuries and also acute infections that occurred on the battlefield and of course caused massive loss of life. But it did not then develop a model of positive health or a model of positive behavioral factors. And the doctor ceased to interact with the patient. The doctor then became more involved in procedures or testing, and the doctor didn't have to see the patient or talk to the patient or even give them much of a recommendation as to what they should do. And now what's happened in the Western world today is we have the proliferation of the drug-based medicine, and it's reached a very critical mass, because now 30% of the children in America are being medicated every day. And the average adult who's the age of 65 is taking 10 to 15 different medications every day, including some medications to balance the side effects of other medications. People are taking drugs for diseases that were not in the textbooks a few decades ago. And people are taking drugs based upon very short-term trials. We have yet to see the generational effects of the medicines that are being given today. So I'm not saying that this cannot be helpful, but the point is this drug-based medicine should be the last resort rather than the first resort in our treatment. So the modern medicine is beginning to recognize the importance of behavioral therapy, but it doesn't have a good behavioral model. At one level, we have the psychology in the West, and the psychology is based upon a counseling model for people. You go to the psychotherapist and they discuss your past, your relationship with your parents, all these other activities going on, but they do not have any practical tools of helping you deal with the mind. They don't teach. A few are now teaching meditation. That is a good thing. But up to now, they've had very few tools to offer. Some years ago, I wrote a book called Ayurveda and the Mind. In that book, I argued for an energetic approach to psychology based upon an Ayurvedic model. It's easy to discover that we have psychological problems. In fact, sometimes we like to say that the mind itself is a pathology. See what your mind is breeding for you. Your mind is going to be breeding fears, desires, anxieties, worries, various types of problems. But the mind is something that is a product of how we are operating. Brain chemistry is not something fixed. These things do not necessarily require pharmaceutical agents. For example, pranayama changes very quickly the flow of blood, the flow of energy, and even the movement of intelligence in the brain. The sensory impressions we take in are not just simply bringing in colors and sounds. We're taking in aspects of the gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, and we're also taking in various aspects of mental and emotional energies. So with the Ayurveda and the yogic model, we say, don't worry about how this emotional disturbance arose, worry about it by correcting it in your daily behavior. And what we see is that these simple methodologies, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, mantra, meditation, can change the very energy and pattern of the mind. In fact, of these factors in the Ayurveda, they always put a lot of emphasis on the mantra chikitsa, because the mind is an energetic system based upon sound vibrations. Sound vibrations come out of the words, the memories, but also the sounds that we hear, and even the vibratory rate of sensory impressions overall. So your mind has a certain vibratory movement, which is the movement of your thought and emotion. It's largely habitual in nature. It reflects previous samskaras and moves them and causes them to manifest in an almost mechanical and unconscious manner. So what we need to know then is, how do we change that? And yoga teaches us something very simple. The key to all psychological healing and all spiritual development and all right judgment is very simple, which is to make the mind one-pointed, the ekagra chitta, to cultivate the power of attention. True education is about cultivating the power of attention. Modern education is about destroying your power of attention. And that is also one of the main factors that the media is trying to do. We have a millisecond attention span through the media, and we used to watch the news during the. We used to get your newspaper every day. Now we change the news every 5 or 10 minutes, and we don't even know what's going on in our own bodies and minds. But we know what's happening in some obscure corner of the world that has absolutely nothing to do with us and may not be of any positive value for anyone to know. So cultivating that one-pointed mind through the mantra, various mantras, bijas are used for this purpose, causes the movement of the mind, the chitta spanda, to become sattvic, to become harmonious, samatva, balanced. And in that process, greater energy arises. The energy caught in the subconscious mind, you release it and let it go, and you have greater energy in the conscious awareness. So yoga works through that, the mantra, and then also moving that through the dharana, the ekagra chitta. And then this helps us to bring happiness into the mental field. We don't have time to go into it, but the 5 klesha model of the Yoga Sutras, Pancha Klesha, is a very good model for understanding psychological pathologies. The avidya, the wrong knowledge of to who we are, what things are about, the asmita, the arrogance, the egoism, the misidentification of self and the body, raga dvesha, being caught between all these different dualities of attraction and repulsion, gain and loss, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain. Abhinivesha, clinging to life, is actually addiction. Mind is naturally an addiction-forming power. That also becomes the basis of the samskaras, not only various psychological pathologies, but also we say various karmic pathologies, breeding bad karma for yourself and others. That's another topic, but sometimes I'm asked to speak before some of the business community in India, and one of the subjects I like to talk about is the karma of money. It's not just that money has a material value, there's also a karma behind it. that you are accumulating in the process. Make sure that you have good karma along with it, not simply great finances and all of that. So that klesha model is also very important, and that understanding of the mind, sattva vijaya. Ayurveda always has the twofold focus of balancing the doshas, vata, pitta, kapha, and increasing sattva guna. And here I have to relate a story of my own study of Ayurveda. When we studied the original books on Ayurveda, they discussed the different doshas, vata, pitta, kapha. And yet, when they discussed the gunas and the doshas weren't connected. Or they say vata doshas, tamasic, pitta doshas, rajasic, kapha doshas, sattvic, or some said kapha doshas is tamasic, vata dosha is rajasic, and pitta dosha is sattvic. So what I did, one of my innovations, I made a table of vata, pitta, kapha, and sattva, rajas, tamas on each level. So vata dosha person, how is it when they have sattva gunas? They have balance, they have self-control, they have creativity, comprehensive adaptation, prana, movement. When Rajoguna prevails for the Vata dosha person, then they have disturbance, change, instability, imbalance, pain, tremors, all those things. When Tamoguna prevails for the Vata dosha person, then they have inertia, anxiety, darkness, confusion, misjudgment. So I created a table of where we have 3 guna types for each dosha type. So I introduced that in a book I did in 1989, and I'm happy to see that I find that table in various forms in many other books coming up today, particularly in the West. So it's important with the gunas and the doshas, you put them together, it's like it's like a crosshair. See, one is a vertical line, one is a horizontal line. You put them together and you can have a much more precise examination of the person and how to treat them. And not in a judgmental way, showing how you can raise sattva guna. Another thing we developed was a chart of behavioral factors, and whether it's factors like honesty or whether it's ability to control the senses. And then have 3 options for sattva, rajas, and tamas. So you can see your own strengths and weakness relative to the gunas and the psychology. Have that also the doshic test, so you have this greater sense of how gunas and doshas are working within you, so that you can work at both simultaneously. Now, another area we've done a lot of work with is the herbal basis. And one problem we had in the Western world is we didn't have access to the Ayurvedic herbs, particularly 30 years ago when we started. So we began researching the herbs in the Western world and seeing how they could be applied in an Ayurvedic concept. The Ayurvedic Rasa Virya Vibhak Prabhav model works with all herbs and all foods. There is no such thing as an Ayurvedic herb. There is an herb that is understood in its Ayurvedic usage, and an herb whose Ayurvedic usage may not be understood. But we have the same taste, and of course in many countries we have the same herbs or the same families or the same type of substances. So we did quite a bit of work on that particular subject over time. We did this yoga herbs book, and then we worked on various Ayurvedic formulas that way. And here we have the very important concept of the Medhya Rasayana. The Rasayana is for the brain and the mind. And these are the herbs that work best for yoga. They work best for behavioral medicine. They work best for longevity, rejuvenation, and also the Rasayana chikitsa. So we need to do much more work with these herbs, but we also need to prescribe them more. Brahmi, Mandukaparni, Ashwagandha, Shankapushpi, Jatamansi. We need these herbs much more today because we're constantly looking at these cell phones and computer screens, and we're getting our nervous system depleted. Sometimes I tell people today we're all drug addicts. We have 3 types of drugs that we're taking regularly. One is the pharmaceutical drugs. As I say, the majority of people in the West today are taking a pharmaceutical drug every day. Second are the recreational drugs, which are also popular. They also include alcohol and various stimulants. But the drug of choice today is the digital drug. The digital drug. The digital drug is the drug effect of the stimulation through the media, through the cell phone, through the computer, through the television, and all these things, which causes your nervous system to vibrate in a different way, and one that definitely depletes Vata dosha. It also depletes the ojas. It also weakens the dharana, and it also tends to confuse the buddhi. And I'm not saying we can't use the technology in a positive way, but to do that, we have to take time off for yoga, for meditation, and we also need to use these type of medhya rasayanas to help with the nutrition and flow of energy and movement in the mind.